Hi there. Today we're going to be talking about buying a car in Denmark. Stay tuned. Hi there and welcome back. If you're new to my channel, my name is Kelly and I'm an American and I live in Denmark. Today I'm going to talk to you about buying a car. Now I have some experiences with renting a car, then buying a used car, and then finally buying a new car. So I've kind of gone through the whole circle of different things that you can do with a car in a foreign country. And I wanted to share that experience with you in case you are someone like myself going through the process and wanting to know what it's kind of all about. No, I am not a financial planner, I'm not a banker, I'm not a car dealer, but I am just a person who went through these experiences and I'm here to share them with you. So I'm not an expert by any means, so keep that in mind. Now, before we begin, I would just like to say thank you to all of my subscribers. Your support by being a subscriber means so much to me, so thank you so much for that. And if you are not a subscriber, but yet you're interested in maybe this topic or topics like it, please consider clicking the red button so that way you get notified whenever I post new videos of other things that you just might happen to be interested in. I really appreciate that you're here, and I would really appreciate you as a subscriber. Now let's get to the fun stuff. We had owned cars back in the US. We had to sell them before we moved to Denmark. And I have to say, it was such kind of a sad thing because the car that I had, I actually bought brand new. And I mean, I picked everything out. You know, like I had a remote control car starter on my keychain. And you might be thinking, oh my God, that's really lazy. Well, if it's negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit, you would want a remote control car starter because when it's cold like that, things don't shut down, things don't stop. You know, it's business as usual. So as you're walking to your car, it might be kind of nice that it's already started to warm up. I had satellite radio, I had a sunroof, I had heated seats, I don't know. When you go from owning a used car for so long to owning a new car that you can kind of deck out the way that you want, I don't know, for me, I wasn't really willing to give that up too quickly. And I know my husband really loved his very large SUV that we had in the US. But of course, you can't really take those things with you. Because if you bring a car from the United States to Denmark, you have to pay a lot of import tax on that car. And then you also have to pay to get it shipped here. And that can be so much that it is probably more than the car's worth and probably not worth it. So we sold everything, including our camper, and we knew that we would start again in Denmark. But I wasn't really sure what kind of cars that they had here or if I would find a car that I liked. The type of car that I had in the US was called a Chrysler Sebring, and I absolutely loved it. Never had any problems with that car. I bought it in 2007. I had it until we moved in 2016. Never a single problem with that car. I loved it. I wasn't going to be so picky when we moved to Denmark because I knew that we had to buy one car instead of two because it was going to be so much more expensive. But even before that, we decided to rent a car. So what we did is as soon as we landed at the airport, we had a relative come and pick us up, and we stayed with my mother-in-law for a couple of weeks. We didn't need a car when we stayed with her. We drove her car. But when we were finally going to be leaving her house and driving the 2.5 hours north to our new home in Midtjylland, middle of the peninsula, we needed a car. And we also had to borrow a lot of things from my mother-in-law, so that meant that we packed that car so much that you couldn't really even see my little boys' faces in the back. There was so much stuff we had to borrow from my mother-in-law. So we ended up renting a car. We got a mini lease, which is a month lease. So instead of, going, like you're on vacation and renting it for a short period of time, we rented it for a longer period of time. This mini lease was up to a month, and we could keep extending it another month and another month if we wanted to. And really, we didn't know where we were going to live. We knew we had an apartment in a small town, but we didn't know if we were going to be staying in that small town or moving to a bigger town where we might be using public transportation. So we thought that renting with this mini lease was a good idea for us. And we ended up doing that for the first 2 months that we lived in Denmark, because if you know anything about the springtime in Denmark, you know that there are a lot of long weekends because of different holidays. We went back down south to where my mother-in-law lived, near the German border, and I think we went there for Stor Day, Kristi Himmelfart, Easter. And if you don't know anything about these dates, you can actually check out a blog post I have that tells you about all the most important dates in Denmark, the times when you're off of work and school. I'll put the link in the description so you can check that out, just in case you're new to Denmark and you're not really sure when these are, or which days you have off work and which days you have off school. But for us, you know, we had a lot of long weekends, so that meant that we packed up the car and went down and visited my mother-in-law, because, you know, we really wanted an excuse to get out of our teeny tiny apartment. And so when we did that, we realized that we did not have a lot of room in that teeny tiny little Toyota Yaris. You know, and I mean, maybe you have a Toyota Yaris. I think they would be great work cars if you have to travel a long way. But for us, when we're a family of 4 with a lot of stuff, that car just doesn't work. And for us, when we traveled to visit my mother-in-law, it was really important that we had enough space. So for us, it was really important that we decided to get a new car. Well, at this point in time, it was 2 months after we had moved here, so it was maybe around May. And yeah, we were still kind of taking those long weekends to my mother-in-law's. But the fact is that we knew that we were going to have to get out of our apartment more sooner than later, because when our container arrived with all of our stuff, we did not have room for even half of the things that came off that container. We picked the smallest, basic, whatever apartment just because we needed a place to live. We thought we'd figure it out later. And it worked out. But we had to get a place to store all of our stuff because we didn't have room. And because we were going to be making a big purchase with buying a house, we knew that we couldn't buy a brand new car. There was just no way. So that led us into buying our very first car in Denmark, which was a used car. So how do you go about finding a used car in Denmark? Well, the first thing that we did is we went on to bilbasen.dk, which is kind of like a search engine type of website where you can put in your preferences for different types of cars and see where they're located in different dealerships. For us, a big requirement was the fact that it would fit us. We needed a big trunk space. We wanted to have a car that the boys could grow into because they were 6 and 3 at the time, and we knew that they would just be getting bigger. And we wanted to make sure that it was something that could pull a camper caravan, because we knew it was only a matter of time before we would buy a camper caravan. So we had some of those requirements, but for me, I wanted an automatic. Hands down, I wanted an automatic. There was no negotiation with that. I needed that. And that's mostly because everything was new to me when I moved to Denmark. I mean, everything. My husband is Danish, right? So yeah, he is not from the middle of the peninsula, but still, he can go to the grocery store and understand everything. He can talk to anybody on the street or in our neighborhood or whatever and understand them completely. He can watch TV without any problems. For me, there was just a constant, culture shock, one right after another. And the big thing was the language. No matter how fast I tried to learn it, it wasn't coming fast enough. And I just wanted something that was familiar. And even though I learned how to drive a stick shift when I was 18, and this was 20 years after that, I could probably get back into the swing of things. But I thought, you know what? I would like one thing, and that one thing is going to be an automatic car. And believe it or not, it wasn't too hard to find a couple in our area. We found one in Silkeborg, and there was also one in Aalborg. And we aren't too far away from either of those places. So it wasn't so much of a drive for us to go down to Silkeborg or up to Aalborg one weekend to look at cars. And so it was really nice that this basin.dk was able to find them for us, because we could have traveled all over in all different kinds of car lots looking for an automatic and not have found one. This, of course, was 2016, and used cars that are an automatic is not that common. But I think now it's becoming more common that you can find automatics in car dealerships. Maybe so much more for newer cars than older cars, but it is becoming more common. So we went down to Silkeborg, and Silkeborg, by the way, if you don't know much about Midtjylland, Silkeborg is a fantastic town to go to when you're looking for a car. I would almost say that they're like the car capital, of the peninsula. I don't know that for a fact, but they have so much variety. I mean, we went down there to look at one dealership and one specific car, but we didn't really get a good feeling for it. And so we're kind of thinking, all right, well, let's see what else is out there. There's so many other car dealerships to choose from. So we went to other car dealerships, we looked at other types of cars, we got a feel for maybe what was interesting to us and what could work for our family. But we also knew that we needed a used car, so we were still going to give the one in Aalborg a try. And so the next weekend we went up to Aalborg to check out that automatic car. And it was a 2012 Opel Insignia, which is not a kind of car that we have in the US. We don't have Opels. It was, something that I wasn't familiar with. You don't even see cars that look like that. But I really liked the look of the car, and so did my husband. So we thought, okay, well, we'll give it a shot, And when we got there, we were really surprised with the car. I don't know, it was just like a feeling, right? It just kind of clicked. And we just knew that that was the car for us. We went home, we talked about it, we thought about it, and the more we were away from the car, the more we were kind of, wanting to go back to it. So we ended up getting that car. And for us, it was just a matter of knowing our budget, first of all, talking with our advisor at the bank before we went in, and just figuring out what it was that we could afford, especially since we were planning on buying a house. So we had the conversation of how much should we be putting towards the house, how much should we be putting towards the car, what do we want our payments to be, and stuff like that. But it's so great that we have an advisor at our bank who is in charge of our accounts, and that person is the person that we talked to about this. So when we told the car dealership that we wanted that car, then we got in contact with our bank to talk about the loan, and then they contacted the dealership and worked out the rest. One thing that's also really nice about our bank is that we pay for this package where it's not just that we're paying for the car loan, but we're also paying for the insurance at the same time. Because if you are buying a car in Denmark, you can't take the car home with you unless you can prove that you have insurance. So that's something you can buy on your own. But for us, it was really easy that we were able to kind of put it all into one package within our bank. So that was just one thing that we didn't have to worry about. I have a full post on my blog about renting a car, buying a used car, and then, of course, buying a new car, because that's something that we are actually in the process of doing right now. So if you are looking for specific websites that go along with buying a car, dealing with taxes, things like that, I will leave the link down below in the description, so that way you can go straight there. Maybe as you're listening to me talk, there's something that you can click on that can help you find out how much taxes you'll be paying. And that's one thing. All cars in Denmark will have a registration tax for a new car. But for an old car, that tax has already been paid, right? But you do have to pay a sales tax. And that is all included in the price. So when you're going and looking at cars and you see the sticker in the window and you're thinking, okay, I know that that's how much the car costs, but what is going to be the extra cost added on to that? Usually what you see on the sticker price, from what I have been told, from what I remember, that's the price that you're going to be paying. So it might always be a good idea just to be on the safe side to say, okay, this is how much I'm paying you, right? Another thing to keep in mind when you're buying a car is that no matter if it's used or old or whatever, you will be paying this green tax about twice a year. And the green tax is something that is based off of the type of car you own. So if you have a hybrid or an electric car, you're going to be paying a very low green tax compared to somebody who's driving gasoline or diesel. And did you actually know that in Denmark, they're going to try to do away completely with new gas and diesel cars by 2030? That's actually kind of cool. I wonder really what that's going to kind of look like. I can't imagine that in the US because of all the big trucks and everything, but I have actually started seeing a lot of trucks lately in Denmark. So I'm wondering, yeah, they could probably have them on the road, but they'll probably have to start paying a higher tax. I don't know. I'm not really sure what's going to happen for that. That would be something to kind of wait for the next few years and see how things change. Along with the green tax that you pay maybe twice a year or something, you're also going to be paying maybe twice a year, and it might all depend on your plan, your insurance. So I know that in the US, I paid my car insurance twice a year as well. But I know that I had a certain insurance company that required that I pay it every 6 months or something. So that could be different for people. But if you're thinking, okay, well, I bought this car, what kind of payments am I going to have to make after that? Obviously, you're going to have to pay off your loan from the bank. You're going to have to pay your car insurance, and you're going to have to pay this green tax. So those are some things that you want to keep in mind for after you've already bought the car and brought it home. Now it's 2021, and because our car is actually 9 years old, we haven't had it for 9 years, but it's about time, I think, for us to get a newer car. I think if we would have bought a new car in the beginning, we would still have the new car. But for us, our car right now is a diesel. It's not very environmentally friendly, right? But we've been thinking about getting a hybrid car. And I love our Opel Insignia. I really do. There's so many things I love about it. But one thing I really don't love about it is that it's so low to the ground. And we live in Jylland, okay? So when people say, oh, you're a country bumpkin from the farm or whatever, that's not all wrong. My kids' best friends, I swear, all live on farms, or they all live in the country. And we have to go through these dirt roads to get to their houses. And every time, I can tell you every time, I can just hear it. Hear the gravel just grating on the bottom of my car, like, and I just know one day it's going to end up ripping a hole into something because we're so low. When we lived in the US, like I said, my husband had a larger SUV. He had a GMC Acadia, so you can look that one up. And we were up so high in that. I really like that. I like that feeling of being able to see all the way around you. Sometimes it's just so annoying to be so low to the ground. I know it's not a reason to get a new car, and believe me, there's just like all these little things. But for us, we decided that we're going to go with a Toyota SUV. So we're pretty excited about that. But one thing that's really crazy is really crazy. I feel like I live in East Germany, during the Cold War. Okay, fine. It's not that bad. But it's weird, right? I mean, I was a German teacher for 16 years. I taught the Cold War all the time, about the people had to register to get a car, and it would take like 7 years or something. That's not the case here. But still, we went ahead and signed the paperwork in December of 2020. But we will not get our car until probably April of 2021. It's so weird. When I bought my car in the US, I kind of pretty much picked out everything that I wanted, and I told the dealership, this is the car I want, this is the color I want, this is this. And they searched all over until they found the car. And then they had it sent from wherever it was, Michigan, I don't know, all the way to Illinois where I was living. And it only took like a day or two, but it already existed. But for this car, for us to get what we wanted from it, it had to be made specifically for us, which I think is so cool. It's really interesting that we told them what we wanted, and then they ordered the car to be made. That's something that we don't see. I'm the descendant of auto workers. My dad worked for Chrysler. My grandpa worked for Ford. I have been surrounded by cars my entire life. We would go to car shows every single summer. Not complaining, Dad, just stating a fact. But I've been around cars my whole life. I probably know more than the average girl, and I still feel like I don't know that much. So I kind of know the whole idea of making cars. Dad's going to work to make cars. Grandpa's going to work to make cars. You know what I mean? And it's you drive by the plant and everything, and you see a lot of the cars in the parking lot because they make so many of them. But they make them to send them out to dealerships, and it's the dealership's responsibility to sell them. But here, they only have so many show models, really. And whatever it is that you want, you have to have ordered, and then they will make it. So they're only making what it is that they need. So it's sustainable, right? They're only using what they need. And I think that's really kind of cool, and it makes me feel a little special that there is a car being built right now or sometime in the future that is just for me or for my family. And I'm really excited about that. To be quite honest, I don't even know what to expect from the car because it has been such a while. And I wasn't there when my husband made the deal at the dealership. We had talked about it. We had looked at the car. We'd done the test drive. We had kind of done all those sorts of things. But it's so weird because normally in the US, you test drive a car, you try it out, you say, yes, this is the car that I want, and then you buy it. You know, it's so different here in Denmark where, yeah, I'm sure that there are dealerships that have cars that are ready to go that people can buy, and we wanted a certain car, so ours had to be made. But that's something you definitely won't see in the US. Okay, so here you might be asking yourself, well, what's the big difference? It sounds like buying a car in Denmark is pretty much like buying a car in any other country. You would be right about that. But the big thing that goes with that is the tax. We are buying a brand new car, so we will have to pay the registration tax. And you know, as I mentioned before, what's on the sticker price on the window is pretty much what you're paying. So it's not going to be a big surprise like, you know, oh, this is going to cost this much. And then here's your bill, you know, and you're like, I didn't factor that in. Well, you know, you deal with your bank and everything and all the numbers get crunched and you know what it is you're paying. But the fact is that the taxes on cars in Denmark is crazy. You can pay anywhere from 105% to 150% of the value of your car. You're like, oh my God, I would never drive a car. It's really, really crazy. They don't make cars in Denmark also, by the way. They get made in other countries. Denmark is not known for being the car capital of Europe. You know what I mean? So it's something that has to be sent out to another country to have made and brought in. So whenever anything comes into Denmark, it gets taxed. They love taxing stuff here. Usually how you get taxed on your car all depends on the price of your car. And that's something that if you're really curious about the specific numbers, then you should head over to scat.dk. Again, I have all this information in my blog post if you want to know which websites to look at to check if you're buying a used car to see what the old car reports are. I've got that in there. If you want to see what the tax figures would be or how they figure out the tax, I've got that in there. If you want to know the information of the website that we used when we were looking for a car, that's in there. There's a lot of information, but you really want to make sure that you discuss things with the dealership and you discuss things with your bank. If you can get a lot of things done at the same time, that's great. You know, like paying for the registration, having the car registered, and the insurance is all being done by the dealership or your bank, and they're figuring everything out and then just sending you a bill. That's so much easier than having to worry about, did I do everything right? Okay, and then also if you bought a car and you're wanting to find some things for it, you know, for the inside, maybe oil, I don't know, different small things like that. You know, for us, we might go to a place like Pet Boys or Walmart or whatever. Here in Denmark, they go to Tay Hansen, which is a store for cars. So that's something else that's really kind of important to know. I didn't know that when I moved to Denmark. I had no idea where I was supposed to go, maybe to look for windshield wipers or this, that, or the other, you know, for our used car. Thanks for letting me share my experiences with you. Are you someone who is looking to buy a car in Denmark? What kind of car are you interested in? Tell me a little bit about what you're looking for. It's always really exciting, you know, when you make a big decision because it's a big purchase, right? Especially with these taxes. You don't want to do this all the time. There are people out there who lease cars, and for us, I just couldn't wrap my mind around the fact of paying for a car that one day won't be mine. Yeah, you know, you could always have a new car if you're leasing, but I think for me, I would rather have one day in the future when I don't have a car payment, but I still have a car. Yeah. But are you someone who leases and you have really good experience with that? Let me know about that in the comments because I don't know that many people who actually lease their car, and I'm really curious about that. I know also for people who plan on living in Denmark for a very short period of time, maybe buying a used car is the way to go because you're not putting as much money into it and then you're going to have to sell it in a few years. I have to say though, I'm very excited for this car to come, and it's going to be right around camping season. So I can't wait to see how it all goes with our camper this year. Thanks for coming along on this video. Please write me a comment. Give me some insight on the kind of car that you're looking for or the type of car that you own. And if you're an expat, if this has been helpful, I really would love to know that. I hope to see you in another video. And again, if you haven't yet subscribed, now's a good time to click on that red button. I'd love to have you back for more videos. Drive safe. Take care.